All right, welcome back to Elm Elaborates podcast. We are here with ProSteel Buildings. This is season 1, episode 3, rolling up the doors, and that's what we're doing here. We're rolling up the doors and giving you an inside look at our vendor, ProSteel Buildings, that helps us with our conversions, our storage hallways and doors. Nate, welcome, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to hang out with you today.
For sure.
I'm Nate with ProSteel Buildings. We've been around for about 5 years. We supply materials and labor for the self-storage industry. I think we've got 5 projects down with these guys.
That's right.
I do everything from your drive-up buildings, your climate control buildings, multi-stories, bi-levels, door and hallways, and conversions. Met these guys 2 years ago at a Nomad meet and greet. Met Levi. Levi's a great guy to work with. These guys, they had pizza, beer. It was a great time. Then I knew from that moment, they also had a golf simulator, which big golfer. I thought that was really cool. I knew from that moment, these guys are down the street from me. I said, I definitely want to do work with these guys. From then on, they had Macon, Georgia. I quoted that job out for them. Took a little while to get some feedback on that project. Definitely had to prove myself with Levi. Levi's a very busy guy. We eventually went to contract on that job, and that's towards the end of that project is when Ryan came online and started working with us. And I think it just took a while for us to prove to Nomad and to Elm Builders, hey, we definitely want to work with you guys, and we care about you guys, and we just want to keep everything rolling with you guys.
Yeah, so Levi took the ball and was running with you, and I was actually in the background setting up our systems, and we had switched from using QuickBooks exclusively to running a construction management software called Procore.
Yeah.
So I was in the back room, just basically laying out all of our systems and our financials and all that kind of stuff, getting all our projects up in Procore. Levi had me, sit in on a couple of these meetings with you and him, and he asked me, "What's your gut feeling about ProSteel?" I was like, man, I like them. I didn't know at the moment, much about corrugated metal, the roll-up doors and all that kind of stuff. So I was still learning that stuff. And he just asked me, what's my gut feeling on ProSteel? And I was like, I like those guys. I think they're great. And I think they can do great things. So whether that had any influence on Levi's decision, like you said, he was busy and he pulled the trigger on ProSteel Buildings. And man, I'm glad he did, because from that point on, the next 4 projects, I've been working with you directly. And when I walked into Macon, Georgia, and I looked around, I'm like, okay, it's undeniable. ProSteel Buildings is legit. I was just like,
the material's there, it's up.
It's up. Showed up with it was all installed by the time I got there, and I'm like rolling up and down the doors. I'm like, this is a clean product. Yeah, it was clean.
I was very happy the way that one turned out.
Yeah, it was fast. I mean, it was all the boxes we were looking to check. It checked them all. So
I still remember I was on the phone pretty much every day with Rupert. Making sure that project. I said, hey, this is my first one with these guys. I was bird dogging that project.
Yeah. And we appreciate the over communication, because sometimes that's what it takes to get these things done and on time and on budget.
I'm pretty sure I was getting on Rupert's nerves a little bit.
I love the over communication, but some guys, they're just not used to all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I believe after we completed Macon with you guys, we set up a meeting and we went and had lunch and talked it over. Everything went great, and Levi said, hey, I just want to know what your mission is, what's your goal, what are you going to contribute. And I think what I ended up saying is we are going to do the right thing every time. Yeah. Or try our best to do the right thing every time. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to run into issues, but we're going to do everything we can to take care of you as the customer.
Right. And in that moment for us here at Elm and Nomad, we were looking to build a relationship with somebody that, honestly, this is the biggest line item in our budget. Yeah. It's not a cheap product. It's a very expensive product, right? So we were trying to build key relationships in our business for people who can not only knock it out once, but for the next 4, 5, 8, 10 times. We're looking to do this all over the country, essentially. So we needed a partner that had similar goals. They were ready to execute, they communicated well, and they had a vision just like us.
Yeah, so when we go to contract with you guys, it's not just another conversion. It's another stepping stone for us to grow together.
Right.
I like seeing what you guys are doing. You're my guys down the street. So.
That's right. Quite literally.
Yeah, quite literally.
There's corrugated metal guys all over the country, and ProSteel Buildings is
right down the street.
Is a 7-minute drive away. All right, Nate. So after we sign a contract, what does it look like to officially pull this off and kind of give us a turnkey product?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely it takes an army. So once you sign a contract with us, we send out a submittal packet where we choose our colors. For our doors, we have latch selections of different latches for different applications that you could choose from. Once that's done, we have something called an overlay where we go back and double count the parts that we had previously estimated. Once that's done, it has to be signed off and approved by you guys.
Right.
Once that's done, we start getting ready to hit the field. We line up shipping and line up our crews. And typically something like that, we can get materials on the ground anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Once we line up the crew's there, the truck shows up, the crew unloads. The first thing we do is inventory and make sure everything.
That sounds pretty important.
It's very, very important. It's construction, so there's delays, parts could be missing. It's going to happen, so inventory is definitely very important. As we unload and do inventory, it's good to know on the front end, hey, we're missing a couple bottom tracks, we're missing a couple panels. To know that on the front end, so there's no holdups during the construction progress.
Yeah, and I know with our conversions, because we've been doing this for so long that some areas of the building get an 8'4" system, some areas get an 8-foot system, some areas get a 7'10" system. So it's like not only are the doors a different height and or width, but the actual system itself, the liner panels, all that kind of stuff, that's a different height.
Yep.
So I'm sure it's a logistics nightmare to kind of pull this off seamlessly.
No, it definitely is. I think what helps out with us working with you guys is we do initial site visits for all your jobs. Right. So the past 5 projects we've worked on together, we've been on site and went through, took down notes. Hey, we could do this here. Hey, I think this would be a better option to do this over there. So I think that's very beneficial to know for us on the front end.
Yeah.
When we're working with you guys.
And we appreciate it because sometimes you guys point out stuff like, when we do our site visits at Elm Builders, like there's so many trades that we are coordinating and walking with. There's only so many of us. So we really put a lot of trust in our subcontractors to go scope out the building and say, hey, look, you have a sprinkler head that's only 7'11" off the ground. I do not suggest putting an 8'4" system here. Let's do 7'10". Make sure you have the clearance and all that kind of stuff. So from our side, we really appreciate that because we can do whatever we want as far as getting the stuff there. But if we didn't do our due diligence beforehand, then what are we doing? Because then we just ordered and shipped all the wrong stuff. Yes, we were diligent about getting the right parts and pieces, but we never checked to make sure it would actually fit in the building. So that's what I really like when I work with ProSteel. It's just that
definitely. It's kind of the same thing with you guys. We do these conversions all across the United States. You guys are so thorough. Everything we do with you guys is just seamless.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely seamless.
Yeah, on that topic, Nate, like I know you work with us a lot, but you have a lot of other clients. I know ProSteel was once a small company, but man, ProSteel Buildings is growing. So tell me what it's like to work with other clients and especially like on other types of projects, because you don't just do conversions. You do new builds, you do barn dominiums, you do a lot of other various projects. So tell me about what that's like dealing with other clients and other projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I work with everything from developers to GCs and your mom and pops. Ground up builds, like I said, we're doing everything from single story to multi-story. There's a lot of design build involved and working with architects, working with civils, working with engineers to make sure we're meeting design criteria and meeting, say, county requirements. There's a lot that goes into it. So we do everything from that to supplying the materials and supplying labor to erect the buildings, erect the conversions, and install the hallway systems.
Yeah, and what I love about that is that it's a turnkey product, right? Like I don't just get my hallways and doors from you and then have to figure out, I don't have to take the inventory, figure out the fasteners, figure out where the panels go. Yeah. When I hire ProSteel Buildings, I know that all I have to do is get basically the building dried in, get my overheads done with my electrical, HVAC, and then ProSteel Buildings comes in and absolutely crushes it. Turnkey product, the doors are working, the hallways are in, everything's nice and tight, and that's what I love about ProSteel. So tell me a little bit about, like, from my perspective, it seems so easy. I just signed a contract with you guys, a little bit of coordination here and there, but what actually happens to make sure that your client, Elm Builders, Nomad Capital, whoever it is, gets a product that they're super happy about. All the doors are there. All the product is installed exactly as specified.
Yeah, it takes an army on our team to do that. When we're doing conversions with you guys, we are talking about millions of parts that have to be accounted for. And in a perfect world, when we ship out of course, it'd be great if everything shows up on time. All the parts are accounted for. Unfortunately, it's construction. Things, shortages happen. So when we produce a quote for these guys, we do something called a takeoff. And once we produce a quote for these guys and they sign off, say, hey, this looks good to go, ProSteel, then it goes into what we call an overlay, where we recount all the parts.
All right, Nate. So it sounds like ProSteel Buildings does a lot, right? But I'm sure there's some favorite or most popular buildings that you have and products that ProSteel pushes out.
Yeah, absolutely. So ProSteel builds across the United States. I would say pretty much we're kind of in a niche market, what ProSteel does. We do rigid frame buildings as clear span buildings. We're doing a pharmacy right now. We just built a couple offices. We do flex spaces, contractor bays. So we're doing a lot of those right now. We're doing a bunch of non-climate and climate-controlled drive-ups right now. I think ProSteel has really honed in this process, and we're doing a lot of conversions right now.
Yeah.
So the drive-ups, we're doing a lot of them, but compared to the conversions, we're looking at, from contract signing, we're probably looking at I would say roughly 10 to 14 week procedure to get materials on the ground and get guys to start putting these buildings up, compared to when we're supplying conversions, we're probably looking about 6 to 8 weeks to get materials on the ground and get running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot faster.
It is a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have 3 products. You have conversions, you have new builds, and then you have mid-span buildings for like flex use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out of those 3, which one is typically the quickest?
Is absolutely conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing to think about with a conversion, the structure is already there. Biggest thing is we have a roof over our head.
Yeah.
Most of the time to work with. So what that means, weather delays. We run into this all the time. When we're doing ground up builds, our guys can typically on a conversion put out 7 to, depending on how many crews we have out there, can crush about 7 to 10,000 square feet a week.
A week.
Yeah.
That's
so
a
that's
lot.
That they fly through it. Absolutely.
I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
It is
they
amazing.
definitely, and that's depending on how many guys we got out there. So say a crew is typically 4 guys. If we put four crews out there, I would say we could be hitting roughly probably 15,000 square feet a week.
Yeah.
So, and it goes back to talking about when we inventory our stuff. If we've got 4 crews out there, we have to absolutely make sure that we have no shortages out there, and these guys have materials so they don't blow through it, and we're not at a standstill.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've seen that firsthand. On Gastonia, I went up one morning. It was a cold morning, man. I won't forget it. It was a cold morning, and I met your crew there. Mm-hmm. It was like probably 5:36 in the morning. Yep. The light hadn't come up yet. And I was laying out the track with your guys, and I walked away. I went up on the roof, and I started doing my thing with the roofer, doing this inspection. Before I know it, 2 or 3 hours had passed by. I come off the roof, and I was amazed at what I saw from your guys' progress in 2 to 3 hours. They laid the bottom track. They started going vertical. All the layout was done. I just couldn't believe it. And I think I pulled up my phone, and I took a video to show you, and it ended up getting posted on one of our social medias. But you could see the look on my face. I was like so confused because, there was like 5 or 6 guys there, but they just knocked out a whole section of the building, and I just couldn't believe how fast they were able to do that.
Yeah, that's what's great as well on the front end whenever we're selling a project. If we do have delays on getting an estimate out, our vendors are a little bit short, they can't ship out on time, we can always make it up in the field.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. We could add more guys to it and gain some of that time back. So when we hit the field, if something doesn't line up absolutely correct, we can add a panel there, we can shorten a panel there to keep the project going and just make it all come together. Unlike, say, if we're doing a ground-up build on a building, if the grade is not accounted for and there's a column too short, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of more parts that's got to go into it. It's got to be re-engineered.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, it's got to be re-engineered. That takes time in itself to get it through an engineer for them to draw up a set of details.
Time and money, right?
Yeah, I mean, time and money. Yeah, absolutely.
Even if they don't have to give you a new detail, if they say it's okay, just the letter alone can be $300 to $800.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just the time it takes and what it delays a project to get that done. Instead of one day, say we walk in on one of your projects like we did in Gastonia, and say, hey, this is not working out here, we're unlevel here, this is what we're going to do today. We'll just order these 2 extra bottom tracks or pieces of material, and we're just going to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is what we love about conversions too,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I know that the floor plan I send you guys, like it's usually 95 to 98%.
There's always going to be something we're going to have to change.
Exactly. Like there's a column in the way, or we had to put an HVAC unit here and we have to change this hallway because you have to have access and maintenance to HVAC. But like a lot of that stuff is just coordination with our site supers and your field guys. And a lot of the times we don't even get the phone calls because they are just able to figure it out. Yeah. Sometimes they'll call and say, hey, we need an extra part or two. And then they can move on to the next phase. And by the time they're done with that, they switch back, they repair that one area. And then it's just seamless. Like there's never really a hard stop. Like, hey, this engineering isn't working out. We got to stop right now. It's like, no, we just transition. We execute over there and we come back and we just repair that once we get the new piece. Yeah. So we've done 5 projects together: Macon, Georgia, Gastonia, Burlington, Lexington is just wrapping up, and Kernersville is coming up pretty quick here. Which one is your favorite and why?
I think Gastonia and Lexington are going to kind of tie each other. I think Gastonia, what we had to work with, the layout of that building and how impressive it is, the way we fit units into that layout. I think Ben did a good job getting that done. But just the craftsmanship of how we made that work inside that building. But I think Lexington is probably going to be my favorite just to its location. So Lexington is on top of a brewery.
That's right.
With a courtyard. Yes. So it's a pretty cool location to have your sign out there, and it's going to drive a lot of business there because I would definitely be the guy if I had a long day moving stuff in my storage unit. I'd love to go get a beer downstairs right after.
Yeah,
I think it's a great location. So
that was by design. Yeah, and Lexington's our first one that we're rolling out the white hallways with blue doors.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What does that look like? Have you been out there yet?
I have not been out there, but I've seen plenty of pictures. Yeah. So we used to do all white doors with these guys, and Ryan called me one day. He said, "Man, it's just too bland. We got to change it up." So probably 2 days later, I rolled up with all of our color selections in hand, so he could physically view those. And we went with a smart blue color, and I believe it pretty much matches the theme that you guys have going on.
Yeah.
So what I like about a lot of their projects is they keep this industrial look to a lot of their projects, and I think it really fits a good brand that you guys have going on. So a lot of these buildings you choose and everything, it's just sustainable. Yeah. As well, you're preserving the history of the building and everything like that.
Yeah, our buildings are, they're not an obnoxious color. They're not crazy over the top. They're efficient. They're functional. They look good and sleek. Yeah. But they're not overdone. Yeah. And when you overdo a project, you overspend on the project, and that's not what we're in the business for. We want to have great looking, efficient, functional products. And actually, the color samples that you brought over that day, I laid them all out in front of a whiteboard, and I put on the whiteboard the color of each one, and we all did a tally.
Oh, really?
It was close. I think it was off by 1 or 2 votes.
So what was number 2?
Well, I know we went with polar blue, but I think there was like a vortex blue or some other blue that came in second. I can't remember the exact name, but it was a close fight, and actually Eric and Levi made the final decision on that. But I think it looks amazing. Very, very.
Yeah, I think it was a good choice. It makes you guys stand out. Typically when I'm doing my door and hallways and I'm doing these conversions, I do the door color changes a little bit, but white is, I would say, about 90% of the projects. If it's interior, if it's not a window facing door, not a display door, they're going to go with the white door. But I definitely, man, I like the polar blue, man. I'm a big fan.
The white looks good, but when you buy a building that has like existing white walls, right? It's like, do we really want to paint all these walls? When we put the hallways and white hallways and white doors in, it's like there's just so much white, Sometimes against brick and stuff, it can look good, the white and the white. But yeah, we just felt like it was time to switch it up give some life to the way these buildings look. Yeah. Yeah. There's some big names in the corrugated metal world, if you will, right? So my experience with them, communication lacks, sometimes like I'll just text you on a weekend about you're going to Tampa or something like that.
Yeah.
I have direct access, and maybe that's selfish for me and Elm Builders, right? But I have direct access to you. You know, we have a line of communication that goes. We communicate 2 to 3 times a week, every single
Absolutely.
week, right?
Yeah.
With other bigger companies, we don't have to put any names out there, but I know for a fact that sometimes I'll send an email on a Monday and it'll get answered on a Thursday or something like that. That's what I love not having to deal with. So talk about those big guys. Again, we don't have to say any names, but what makes ProSteel different than some of those larger?
Absolutely. So I say this all the time. There, as far as what I'm selling, the material, there's not much of a competitive advantage to it. I'm pretty much selling the same thing that the bigger guys are doing. What I think makes ProSteel stand out is we're smaller. We have a lot to prove. So as far as customer service, getting back with you guys, I have a rule. It's not the following business day. It's got to be that day. If we don't have good news for you, we're still going to get back with you and let you know what's going on. So.
That is the truth.
Yeah. I'm a big believer. If I have a customer calling me and they want an answer and something needs to be done right away, even if I can't get that done right away, I'm going to let them know. I'm not going to hold it off.
Right. Good news or bad news. I think construction, it's not always going to be good news. If anything, it's going to be more bad news than good news, just because there's so many unforeseens. But I just need to know that the people I'm trusting are at least thinking about my project and my product, right? Like, I need to know that Elm Builders and Nomad Capital are taken care of, you know, through the good and the bad. That's what helps me sleep at night. That's what helps our team. It's all about trust. What we do here, and we've talked about before, we're general contractors, right? There's only 4 or 5 of us. Yes, our site super is super important. John Serva and David, those guys are super important to make all these things happen. Me and Cameron, we're doing these things and facilitating, but at the end of the day, we are relying on our subcontractors to absolutely crush it. And that's super important to us because, you know, we can only do what we can. As soon as we sign the contract and we get all your insurance and we get you lined up, right, we pay your deposit, at that moment, if our subcontractor doesn't go out and execute, there's only so much recourse I have, right? Yeah, I don't pay your next bill and all this kind of stuff. I can call you and text you. But what we need to know at Elm Builders and Nomad Capital is that our subcontractors are going to take on the responsibility, and good, bad, or ugly, they are going to absolutely go out and crush it and execute. And that's what I love about ProSteel Buildings.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely appreciate that. You guys make it very easy for us to execute. Like I mentioned before, it's definitely seamless working with you guys. You guys at all times know what's going on with the job site. You know how to proceed, and number one, you guys understand. You treat us very well. It makes it very easy for us to work with you guys. So we're definitely very happy with what we've got going on with you guys, and we definitely just want to keep it rolling.
Yeah, 5 projects, and there's going to be many.
There's a lot more. Yeah, there's some site visits coming up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. All right, for all the projects that we have done, there's also some that haven't came through fruition.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about the old heartbreak Flowery Branch, Georgia?
Yeah, Flowery Branch, Went out there and met these guys, scheduled a site visit, did a 1-day trip. I'm flying out of Wilmington and made it back. Showed up on site and fell in love with that building. Walking that building, it's a Nomad Elm Builder project. For sure. Great building to walk around. A lot of potential. There was good loading docks. That seems to be a common theme with you guys, which is really neat. I don't see that too much with U-Haul trucks and stuff like that. They have the ability to back up to a loading dock and unload on an even floor height, unload all their materials or their furniture, their bed frames, whatever that may be. But I really like you guys implement that a lot on your projects. So unfortunately, that one didn't shake out. You want to talk a little bit about kind of what we saw there and what made it kind of not a good fit for us?
Yeah. So the first level had great ceiling height clearance. It was amazing. Second level, same thing, great height clearance. The third level, we couldn't use the full square footage because in the corners, it was actually a dual pitched roof, so it pitched off the side and towards the back and the front. So there was some areas that were really tight. So right off the bat, you know, we had X amount of square foot, but we lost 10 to 15% because of the height clearance. So that was the stuff that you and I were coordinating. Well, behind doors, what you didn't know about is that also the second floor and the first floor actually were not strong enough to support the weight of storage. The whole building had to be structurally reinforced because it's 125 pounds per square foot, right?
Yeah.
So our engineer came in and took a look, and he's like, hey, guys, at first it was all well and good. Like our architect engineer, they didn't think anything of it. But when they went back to their computers and they ran the numbers, they were like, this building is not strong enough, and we need to reinforce it.
And that would probably blow the budget.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had a contingency. So, you know, it pretty much ate up our whole contingency. So then it was like, how much do we love this project, right? We have to do all this structural reinforcing, which is not only money, but it's a lot of time, right? You guys can't come in until we structurally reinforce this whole building. Well, then it turns out that we also contacted the fire marshal, and the fire marshal said, this building will need fire sprinklers. So it didn't have fire sprinklers, so we ran the numbers on that.
Yeah, it's definitely expensive.
And collectively, and not only did we have to put fire sprinklers in the building, but they said that since we're pulling a fire main, that we have to go past the building and put a new fire hydrant on the corner of the lot, and all these things. So, you know, roughly $800,000 later, and losing all that square footage on the third floor, essentially, it just didn't work out for us. Yeah. There was too many unknowns. Like, yes, we figured out the unknowns, but there's always more, right? It's always like, who's going to do this? What's the logistics? And there's also a lot of storage in the market already. It's overly saturated with storage. This is not really my department. You know, this is acquisitions and underwriting. They kind of do their due diligence and figure out all that stuff. But with all these unknowns and just these were larger hurdles. You know, we're risk takers, but at the same time, we also do our due diligence and think things through. And so from your side, I'm sure that was a bummer because you spent the time and money to come out and take a look. And, you know, it didn't work out for you. It didn't work out for us. So luckily it wasn't too much time and money invested, but, you know, these things, you know, they do take time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm a little biased, right? I love working with ProSteel.
Yeah.
You know, so other than communication, which obviously you and I have great communication, like what else would you say that ProSteel does well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think ProSteel's willingness to bend and flex and work with a customer to meet their timelines is what sets us apart. Again, our over-communicating, trying to get everything right. For an example, about 2 months ago, had a customer that came to us and said, hey, I have a project in New York. It was a little over 110,000 square feet. We were converting an existing Sears building into storage. Yeah. And he came to me and said, hey, I need materials in 4 weeks, and I need this done in 8 weeks. And
that's fast.
Yeah, it was very, very.
How big was the building?
110,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, absolutely, let me talk to my guys and see if we can make something like this happen. So we ended up, from contract signing, shipped out materials, and had everything completed in plus or minus 9 weeks for the whole entire project to receive a CO for them guys.
That's incredible. That's fast.
It is incredible. We had about, I would say, 45, 50 guys out there.
45 guys installing?
Yeah, absolutely. Made it happen for these guys. They said it's their quickest conversion to date, and these guys do probably 10 COs a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many crews is that? Because I know when we do double crews, that's like roughly like 10 to 15 guys. Yeah. So that sounds like it was like...
a crew could typically be anywhere between 4 to 5 guys. Yeah. It was definitely, it was really impressive. I was on the phone with the superintendent every day, making sure they were getting what they needed. I couldn't have done it. Again, it takes an army. Yeah. Without my project managers, my superintendents being on the ground, verifying stuff, because on that project, we ran into a bunch of unforeseens. Yeah. Walls not called out, stuff like that. And columns not called out. And there was a lot of stuff that were holding up our deadline that we had, because we all had a goal in mind. When they told me they needed it done this quick, I was going to do it. Yeah. You know? So despite all that happening, we still made it happen, and it's their quickest. They do conversions. It's kind of their niche as well. And it's their quickest conversion to date. Yeah. Because when we're building these conversions, it's a race to the finish line to get these things filled up, occupied, and renting out. So we can start getting, so the customer can start getting some money back. Yeah.
We call it sprint to the finish. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because we're sprinting to get the loan closed and to get people leasing the buildings up.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the same thing when we're doing ground up builds. It's just a race to the finish line. Let's get this thing done. Let's get the CO, and let's get the sign out front. Let's get this thing rented out.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Is that the one that you use the capital improvement tax form on as well?
I did not
No,
with that, but
not with
that's
that.
pretty neat. So Ryan came to me. I've heard of this before. It's never came to fruition. I think there's some loopholes. There's some fine print.
Yeah.
But it
It
turns
has to
out,
be. It has to be. It's actually pretty. Like it sounds like loopholes and it sounds like a bunch of fine print, but really, what it boils down to, it has to be a capital improvement project. You can't use this form on like a new build because
Yeah.
you're building it from the ground up, right?
Yeah.
The government wants to see you taking something that's existing and improving it substantially, right? Because then everybody wins, right? The town wins, the local government wins. You're paying more in actual property taxes, so you're paying the taxes that way. But the neat thing is that during construction, which is one of our most expensive phases, we're able to save money by saving on taxes because we're doing what's called a capital improvement to the project. And basically, we are certifying that this is a capital improvement project. So I know when I came to you with that, there was a little bit of confusion, like, "Hey, is this for real?" And then we had consult 3 different tax professionals, and all of them were like, "Absolutely,
Yeah.
this is
you're
this is a
saving
legit thing."
7% on most of the project. That's a big number when we're the most expensive trade on a project.
Yes,
Yeah. So that's a
exactly.
lot of money saved, and that frees up money for you to make other improvements
Exactly.
to the building as well.
Yep.
It's just so great, these conversions, the sustainability in these buildings, instead of tearing down land, redeveloping land, and repurposing an old building. I think a lot of towns, a lot of cities, they would rather see that
Yeah.
than they would see a new ground up. So it's a lot as far as the permitting process. I run into it with these ground up builds.
Yeah.
It can be a pain. It can go smooth. Most of the time, it's a pain.
Yeah.
What is it like with the conversion process? So I'm under the assumption that it should be a little bit easier, saying, "Hey, this old ugly building we have downtown, we're gonna fix it up, make it look good, and put some storage in it." So
Yeah, typically it is a lot easier to permit because when you're trying to permit new construction, you have to do all this civil work. Civil meaning groundwork, utilities, all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't have to pull a sewer permit because the sewer's already there and installed. Domestic water service, your water supply, when you turn on your faucet, that's not Bluetooth. It doesn't magically show up, right? You have to tap into the city and bring this line in, and that's all underground. Fire sprinklers, same thing. And then once you have all those in, you have to grade the lot, and you have to grade it to their specifications because you can't go running your rainwater off onto your neighbor's lot. So there's retention ponds and all these kinds of requirements that luckily for the most part we skirt around those because the building's already there. We're improving from walls in. And so typically we don't have to deal with that whole section of permitting. Doesn't mean that we don't have to permit these projects, because we absolutely do. Sometimes it's a lot easier than others. Some towns and jurisdictions have a beautification process, basically, where they want you to, pour new asphalt and do all these planters.
I see it all the time.
Yeah. So there's some conformity there that we definitely have to deal with, especially the town of Kernersville. Don't even get me started.
That one's been tough.
Still licking my wounds on that one, but we made it through, and we're a better company because of it. But yeah, I mean, it is definitely easier to permit a conversion than it is a new build.
I'm excited. I think Kernersville is going to look really nice.
Yeah.
When we get done. That's a very unique building as well.
Yeah. It really is. It's a beautiful old brick building.
It has a pre-existing flea market inside it, which I find those very neat. So I think it's going to be a really good building. It's in a very good location, kind of the heart of Kernersville. A lot of growth around the area. Very, very excited to see. I know we've been working on that one for a good while.
Yeah, we've made some edits in phase 1s and phase 2s.
Yeah, it is a phase 1, phase 2 project.
Yeah. I think we're on plan set revision number 9.
Yeah.
So. I was talking to Cameron the other day. I was like, Gastonia was on revision 9 by the time it finished. Well, Kernersville is on revision 9, and
that might be the magic number.
Yeah, I guess so. But the project is, I mean, it's not just starting, but yeah, we're about 30% in now. But yeah, there were so many revisions on the front end.
Yeah, it happens all the time when I'm working with customers. It's just a part of the due diligence. We'll put something out, and I'll get a call from the customer said, "Hey, I'm sending you a new plan set. We found 5% more net rentable in this project. We're going to ship this around." It's all about getting the most net rentable that we can out of a building. So typically, in a building, you could speak to this, but we'd like to see around 70%
Yeah.
I would say net rentable.
What is net rentable for those that aren't?
Yeah,
like,
net
too familiar
rentable. So
with it?
net rentable, the total gross square footage of a building. Net rentable is the total footage that the lockers cover up. So
Yeah.
that net rentable is the total square footage that you can make money off of.
Right. It's the
Yeah.
footprint of the actual storage units themselves
Yeah.
inside a building's footprint.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to maximize how much square foot of physical storage you have within a building.
Yeah.
So if you have, 8-foot wide hallways, well, you're losing your net rentable
Yeah.
square footage. That's why you reduce them to 5. Or,
Yeah. That's what's great about conversions as well. So when I'm doing ground up, we build on something called a 5x10 grid system. It's just how the buildings are built. That's how they've been built forever. And everything's got to line up in these buildings. We can't shift. We can't go off our typical 5x10 grid system to accommodate, say, there's a little extra room. Like, can we do this and this bump out of the building? But on a conversion, we can do units that are 7 foot 3 inches. We can do 10 foot 7 inches. We can do whatever we can to capture as much net rentable as possible.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of that is like in new buildings, like the owner wants to walk down the hallway and see a straight line all the way down. They care about that.
Yeah.
On the conversions, we want definitely a functional building. We don't want you skirting your carts all through these hallways.
Yeah.
But it's really not like that. Yes, you have some bump ins and bump outs, but overall, I mean, it's a very functional building.
Very, very functional.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're looking to get into storage, a conversion is definitely your cheapest, your fastest option that you have. Yeah,
we would
most
agree.
efficient. Yeah, most efficient.
We here at Elm Builders and Nomad Capital definitely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things like this tax capital improvement advantage, right? Like when you and I collab together on projects, like some of the tools in my toolbox become tools in your toolbox and vice versa, right?
Yep.
So like I think that's a huge piece of being a partner together. Like we're coming up with solutions together that we're using on other projects with other clients and other parts of our business.
Absolutely. That tax advantage, it was news to me that it could actually work. It's ran across my desk before. It never came to fruition. But now that we're doing it with you guys, I have definitely been preaching the word because, we build across the United States. We're seeing tax rates of 9%, 7%, 8%. And on a project that's 70,000 square foot, we're hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, 9% on that, we're saving a lot of money here. And it frees up. There's a lot of options that I always discuss with you on ways we could save money. I think a good one to touch on, if we can, Nomad, and again, this goes back to the industrial commercial look that you guys use. There's an option to liner panel the pre-existing walls at the back of the units on these conversions. And these guys like to paint the walls and leave, per se, a brick finish on the inside. And I think it's very unique to the brand. Instead of seeing a standard metal panel at the back of the unit, but these metal panels can get very expensive. So I go, hey, to Ryan, I think we can save a lot of money. That brick looks really good back there. Let's paint it and leave those panels out. We've discussed shortening our unit sizes. We've teeter-totted around with that, using smaller doors and in some applications, saving money there. So there's definitely the teamwork. I think we're becoming very efficient working together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both looking out for one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Nate, for coming out and joining us. You were our first guest on our podcast, and I appreciate you. We appreciate ProSteel Buildings and the relationship that we have, all the projects we've done in the past and will do in the future. If people want to know more about you and ProSteel Buildings, where can they find out more?
Yeah, appreciate you having me as your first guest. If you wanted more information about ProSteel Buildings, you can look us up at buildprosteel.com. My email is nate@buildprosteel.com. Feel free to reach out to us there. We have a info section where you can submit a request. We've got our phone number on there. And just dial my name, and I'd be more than happy to help you out.
Awesome. We'll link their website. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.